selling an idea. And basically, the first thing I want to do is talk a little bit about psychology. You're the psychologist, right? Okay. The question is, how do people make choices? Especially make choices about things they care about. Like, for example, buying something, or, big choices like that guy or this woman, right? How do people make choices? Is it by analyzing the data and making a decision based on that, or is it in another way? Have you ever had that in any class?
I mean, maybe.
No, tell me. I mean, kind of, what's your guess about this problem? How do people make choices? What's the process on the average? It's different in various people, like everything in psychology, but on the average, how do people generally make choices?
I mean, I think based on like a combination of everything that goes on in your life, mostly like your instincts, I think it ends up being, people end up making choices on.
Like that word, instincts, emotion, in many ways is attached to that. And how do the data come in? Like the actual specs and so forth, how do they come in?
Well, it's more like confirming your own. It confirms your biases. It's a confirmation bias.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So, I'll summarize. The way we make decisions, whether we are people standing in the clothing store, whether we are, that guy, whether we are, in fact, making purchasing or even investing decisions, the first thing that drives these decisions is instincts and emotion, and we're using the data to back up what that is. We will, for example, move away from that decision if the data don't connect. But the pathway is very different to what we think. Most of us make decisions, and we are not analytical. Even those of us in a Myers-Briggs test that show up on the data side, even those of us who are there are making decisions primarily initially based on instincts. So there's a lot of research about that. I could give you some books or papers to read about this. In fact, I will. I mean, if you're into that. But the bottom line is the metrics are really important, but they come afterwards. This is an example. You've seen it now. Like the decision for this really important decision is not, can we save taxes? It's more efficient to pull times, or share roles by bringing up children. That's not the way we make these decisions, even though they actually turn out to be important in the back end of it. Trust me, I know. Huh? Yeah, that's right. It's an emotional trigger that we then back up with, is this reasonable decision? Can this work? But it's not the other way around. It's not an analytical decision first. That's why when we sell our ideas, that's how we sell. It's not by dumping a spec sheet in front of people. It's by selling the idea first. So we already had some information about this. This, of course, is the iPod ad, right? We could be doing this, or we could be selling this, right? All these capacity, wireless displays, camera, whatever is in it. The way we make the decision is that way, not that way. Who has an iPod? Who used to own one? Who ever looked up the specs? Who never looked up the specs? Me. So the point is, many of you will look up the specs, but after the fact. That's just, think through how you bought it. You did not create a very analytical process that somehow the iPod came up at the bottom. That's just not the way it works. All right, so basically that's really important, and therefore the kind of take home key before I even open my mouth. What I'm going to think about is what the emotional key is in the other person I'm going to push. I want to create a want in that other person before I even tell them about my projects. So think about that. There's things that we call, that drive us, that are called values. these values are really close to the core of where our emotion is, right? We have values that say the world is a better place, should be a better place. We have values perhaps that say we should, take care of people who have no opportunities, need a chance. It's these values. There's other values. We need to build businesses to create jobs. What is the emotional want I create in the other before I even start selling? So before I open my mouth, that's what I'm going to do.
I have a question.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
As far as I remember, in the first or the second class, Jessica talked about how the marketing or the sales guys do to sell a product. It's just exactly as how the second way is just not depends on the instinction. It just give you a really specific checklist and go check, and we have this, and much better than the other product than how we sell it. It's not based on the distinction.
So it turns out that the level of, the difference between the two really strongly depends on where you are in your life cycle, of the product. What I'm talking about is your initial pitch right now. And kind of what I'm arguing with you, and I wish Jessica was here, so I would argue with her. So let's bring it back next time. What I would like to argue is it's that kind of trigger that you want to go push early on. It is true that in many ways, at some, there's the specs of a product at the back end. Whether a market goes big or whether a market stays smaller. Who was the Instagram guy? You did, right? Who gave the Instagram, stick too much to the idea?
Oh, yeah.
You did, right? So certain characteristics of a product turn out to be really important over time. What I'm arguing, though, at the beginning, and by the way, it's a lot of work on this. This is not my idea. Is that this kind of emotional connection, that emotional trigger, is really important early on. So basically, what I'm going to focus on is the way I'm organizing my pitch is very much aligned with this. So before I get there, I want to make sure that you understand that there's many different levels of pitches. Elevator pitch, you talk about, we're going to practice some of these. Kind of the 1-minute version. It really should be simple, fast. Now, for me, the only way